ऐसे अभी गया फैन को चला गया वो बहुत धूल है ना इट इज बहुत कैची हो रहा है
Hi, welcome. This is Mukta Pradhan, and I am the founder of ThriveFNC. I am a functional nutritionist, and I am so happy to be doing this live broadcast and live workshop for all of you. What we do at ThriveFNC is we work with people who have chronic health issues like diabetes or excess weight or PCOD or PCOS or gout or high BP. Basically, any chronic health condition is what we help resolve. And in doing so, we have had to often come up with alternative recipes for their favorite food so that they wouldn't ever feel deprived by living a healthy lifestyle. So, all the recipes I am going to share with you today are actually part of what a lot of members of the Thrive Tribe have made for their own selves during their festival celebrations. Now, why did we decide to do a live workshop on healthy sweets? Well, Ganesh Chaturthi is coming up. It's just 2 days away. That's the first festival that kicks off our entire festive season. And what we realized is a lot of people have gained weight in the lockdown and they're feeling really worried about indulging in sweets. And, there's a little bit of guilt associated with celebrating festivals full-fledged. So we thought of doing this absolutely free live workshop for everyone where we could share our tips and tricks for making sweets without sugar, without any inflammatory food, still make them delicious, and then enjoy them without losing anyone's health even a little bit. So, we are making 3 recipes today. One is Shrikhand without dairy. I'll tell you why without dairy as we go through the recipe. And then we are making Modaks today, and we are making Pedhas today. So, we'll get started in a couple of minutes. I just want to be a little organized because no one would want a stray hair in their modak or peda. So I am really looking forward to this. We used to do a lot of live workshops and demos in the past before lockdown. We've done baking workshops, we've done street food and snacks made healthy. But given the season, given what's coming up, I thought it's best we start off with the healthy sweets workshop first. Alright. That prevents any splatter from going on my clothes, and let's get started. So what we have is we're going to start with Shrikhand. What we need for that is cashew nuts. So cashew nuts, honey, lime juice, saffron and cardamom. We've written down the ingredients here for those of you who have registered on the link that was shared before on the Zoom link. You will receive the recipe booklet with actual measurements and with ingredient lists along with the method as well. We'll also share a few articles on why we are choosing particular sweeteners, why we are avoiding sugar. So you will get all of that. It's just that for you to understand what I'm doing, we put these ingredients down. So we start off with cashew nuts that are soaked in water, and then we need honey. We're going to use honey as a sweetener for Shrikhand, and we are going to use some lime juice. Now, to save time, I actually made lime juice beforehand. And then we're going to use a few flavoring ingredients. So we have chopped almonds and pistachios. We will show you a closer image of this. We have some saffron here, and we have some cardamom powder, which really brings out amazing flavor. Okay, so how are we going to make our Shrikhand? Well, you soak cashews overnight. Preferably overnight, but if you don't have enough time, at least for 2 hours, because what happens is it kind of plumps up the cashew, right? So it makes it nice and soft because we are going to grind these cashews. So when you soak them, you just use some water, put them in a mixer and grind them to a fine paste. So this is what it looks like. So this is cashew paste that we made in advance because I don't really have space for a mixer here. But this is what the soaked cashews ground into a paste look like. It's a really fine paste. Make sure there are no granular parts in it because you don't want grainy Shrikhand. You want a really smooth feeling Shrikhand. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cashew paste in this vessel. This is by far the easiest Shrikhand recipe you would have ever learned. This I know for sure. I'm going to add a little lime juice to it. What the lime juice does is it gives you that sourness that Shrikhand usually has, because traditional Shrikhand is made with hung curd or hung yogurt. and it's got this really nice sour feel to it. So we are using lime juice to add that flavor, I mean the taste. The actual amount, the exact quantity will come in the recipe booklet that we shared with you. If you haven't registered for the recipe booklet, if you haven't registered on the link that was shared in the email, in the FB event, if you're just attending this for the first time, I would highly recommend looking after we're done with the workshop, going back to the event link and registering on the Zoom link there, because that's how we'll get your email IDs. Or if you're okay, you could just share your email ID in the comment section and we'll send you the booklet. Alright? So I've added some lime juice to this cashew paste. I'm mixing this until it mixes well. Alright, there you go. It's all mixed. Alright. And then I'm adding honey, which is our sweetener, to this. Now you could adjust the quantity of honey based on your desired sweetness. We'll send you our standard proportion. So mix this really well. If you like a thicker Shrikhand, like this one's a little runny, and we prefer our Shrikhand like that, but if you like a little thicker Shrikhand, then when you're grinding your cashews, you can use lesser water. So we now have the honey, lime juice and the cashew paste really mixed well. Now we're going to add our flavors. So I'm using a little cardamom powder. You could use either store-bought cardamom powder, or you could make cardamom powder and store it at home. We've made cardamom powder in bulk and that's what we're using. And then a little bit of saffron, because yum, who doesn't like saffron? So you could use this base recipe and also make mango Shrikhand or Amrakhand. You could use this base recipe and make fruit Shrikhand, where you could put pieces of fruit in that, or you could use this base recipe and make chocolate Shrikhand or sitafal Shrikhand. You could really try a lot of variations with it because it's so versatile. So now I'll mix the saffron with the and the cardamom with this, and that's it. The Shrikhand is ready. It doesn't take too much work. The only time that you would need is for pre-soaking the cashews. That's the only time, because grinding it is just a 5-minute job, and you just have to have your other ingredients ready, and literally in 5 minutes you have Shrikhand that's ready. So it's a very quick recipe. If you have kids at home who have a sweet tooth, it's a great recipe to make for them. Why do we choose cashew over dairy? Because in our work, what we've seen is dairy is quite inflammatory. It triggers a lot of health problems in most people that we work with. From digestive issues, like people who come to us for IBS and gas and bloating, we've seen dairy causes a lot of problems for them. From people who have psoriasis and skin conditions, acne, eczema, we've seen eliminating dairy really clears up their skin and helps them a lot. And then even in terms of diabetes and weight loss, what we've seen is modern day dairy, which is like the packet wala milk that most of us have been used to. These cows are injected with a lot of hormones. These cows are given a lot of antibiotics to prevent infections. These cows are given, food that is not their natural food. They're given feed which might contain soy and corn and other stuff. So the milk that they produce is not really the kind of milk that's in the best interest of our health, and that's why that milk starts creating so many issues. Also, some people do not have enough of the digestive enzymes that are required to digest milk sugars. So that's why a lot of people get gas and bloating. So we've generally seen that eliminating dairy really works well in helping people with their health problems. That's why we came up with a dairy-free alternative to Shrikhand. And here it is. So I have a few chopped almonds and pistachios, which I'm going to use for decor. If you have rose petals, you could use that too. And then maybe a saffron strand or two. And there you go. Absolutely amazing Shrikhand that looks and tastes just like regular dairy Shrikhand. So let's take a closer look at this. I'm just going to hold it up for you And then you can take a look at this Shrikhand that I've made. It looks just like the real deal, alright? And it's absolutely yummy. So this is Shrikhand. What we are going to do next is we are going to move on to making modaks. This is a slightly complicated recipe. It's not as easy as Shrikhand, but I'll take you through it and you'll see that you can master the art of making modak also. So to make modaks, here is what you need. Okay, so as a kid, I would wait for Ganesh Chaturthi because I really love the taste of modak, and not just that, I have a really big family. I have 13 cousin sisters, and all of us used to get together for Ganesh Chaturthi. It was a big, big family occasion, and all the women and the entire women, the feminine energy of the family just came together, and we would make modaks. So we would make bulk modaks, like nearly about 80, 100 modaks, and it used to be so much fun. So for me, making modak is associated with that memory of the entire family coming together. My mom, who's no longer here, my mom, my sister, all my cousins, all of us having so much fun, and then trying our experiments with modak. So it's one of my absolute favorite recipes to make when it comes to healthy sweets. So what we need for that is, give me a minute and I'll tell you what we need for that. So we need coconut, fresh coconut. You could either break a coconut and grind it in the mixer and make a coconut pulp, or you could just get store-bought grated fresh coconut. We've done that. So this is the fresh coconut we got from the store. You need rice flour, which makes the outer covering. So the coconut is for the inside, the rice flour is for the outer covering. We are using dates as a sweetener here. Now, traditionally, modaks are made with jaggery most often, and then sometimes with sugar. But sugar and jaggery both are actually quite inflammatory. Like, sugar has been shown to even feed cancer cells and spike blood insulin levels and blood glucose levels. So most of us know sugar is not healthy. I don't even have to tell why we avoid sugar. But then the question that everyone has is, if I avoid sugar, what is my alternate sweetener? Because most of us do have a really nice sweet tooth going on. So for this, we are using dates. Why is jaggery bad? When we send you the article that I spoke of, we've written about jaggery as well, so you can read about that in the article we've written. And then we're using cardamom for flavoring. We're using some nutmeg, a little bit. And then I need water to make the dough that's going to be the outer covering, right? So how do we go ahead with this? We'll start off with first. So what we'll do is we'll just start off with making the filling first, and while that cools, then we make the dough for it. Now I have date paste here, which was made by soaking dates in water for 30 minutes. It doesn't take too long for dates to soak and become ready to be ground into a paste. So these are just some dates. Like I said, proportions, quantities, we'll send it in the recipe document that we're going to send you. So some dates soaked in water, de-seeded and soaked, and those are ground into a paste. So we need the gas for this. Okay, so in a kadai, I'm putting my fresh coconut. And then I really like keeping things simple and fast. Typically, somebody might wait for this coconut to be well roasted before they add their date paste, but I like my recipes to be a little faster. So I'm adding this date paste to this. I'm going to increase the heat a bit. And a little water to this date container, just so that I get off whatever stuff date paste is there here. So as the coconut cooks, it's going to release its own water, which will help the date paste mix within it. And I have this really nice kadai where I can hold the handles and show you without getting blisters. So this is what it looks like. You'll notice I'm using only stainless steel utensils. There's no non-stick, no aluminium, nothing else here. And the reason for that is a lot of your non-stick cookware can release so many toxins into your food. Most of them are carcinogenic in nature. They contain PCBs, which we've seen in the when we do root cause analysis, which is when we look at somebody's blood test to find out what's really going on with their health. What we've seen is they often have a very high load of toxins in their body. Now these toxins can come from the fruits and vegetables you're eating, if you're eating non-organic. These toxins can come from the personal care products that you're using, but toxins also come from the utensils that you're using for cooking food, because often these toxins can leach out into food and then enter your body through that. So we have seen, like I told you, right, we work with chronic diseases and we help people in reversing those, and the first step in doing that is to look at their blood test to find out what's really going on. So if we see a toxin load, then we know for sure it's coming from these multiple sources, including the utensils. So we always recommend using stainless steel because these are the most non-reactive. Like steel is pretty non-reactive as a metal, so the chances of your food being contaminated with a heavy metal is very low. Alright, so this is now cooking really well. Both the date paste and the coconut have mixed. I'm going to give it some time to cook. And what I'll do in the meantime is make the dough for the outer covering of the modak. So traditionally, I think people use ghee for sauteing the coconut. People use dalda sometimes for sauteing the coconut. Dalda or that vanaspati or that fake ghee, which is just hydrogenated fat, which is so terrible for the body. We generally avoid using too much fat in our diet, which doesn't come from a natural source. So if you're eating eggs from it, for example, and if the yolks have fat, that's absolutely cool. But if you're refining fat out of any animal or plant product and then using that, we've seen it's not such a great idea. So this gets sauteed without any additional fat. The fat from coconut itself is enough. Alright, so I'm going to move this to the other one now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the dough for the dough for the modak outside. So if my voice is not loud enough, please say that in the comments. My team is watching the show, so they'll let me know, and then you'll suddenly see me looking at them and raise my voice. Okay, so we have a pretty good feedback system going on here. Alright, so what I'm going to do to make the dough, okay, so that's cooking on a low flame. Alright, to make the dough now I've put on the heat in this container. I'm adding about a glass of water. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to add this rice flour that I have. Make sure you're using as much organic as possible because grains especially get really contaminated with the toxins and the pesticides and the fertilizers. So I have this rice flour which is store bought. We haven't made rice flour here. Let the water boil and then I'm going to add this rice flour there. Now, by the time all of this happens, this coconut would have been cooked, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Yeah, it's smelling so good. So if you're in Baner area and if you want to taste what this tastes like, you're welcome to office. We don't have too much in terms of this demo, but we can still share the stuff we're making. So after this coconut filling cooks, I'm going to add a few flavoring materials to that as well. Okay, I have to be louder. I will be. So I used to hear people say that a watched pot never boils. I can see that happening. I'm waiting for this water to boil, but it's just not boiling. So when the universe decides it's time for the water to boil, we'll have boiling water ready. Yeah, that should help with the audio a bit. Yay! I see the first bubbles of heat coming in. Alright, the water is boiling now. And this is good. So because it's on low flame, it's not really getting burnt. What I get the smell of dough is very nice roasted coconut. Okay, so I'm adding this rice flour to the water that's boiling. See, it's good I wore an apron because the rice flour has a mind of its own. And I'm switching off the heat because I don't want to cook this, I just want it to get a nice steam. Alright, how do I show what it looks like? Here you go. Okay, so I've just added rice flour to that boiling water. This is what it looks like. I'm going to cover it and keep it for about 5 minutes because when I have to knead the dough, I can't really put my hands in boiling hot water dough. Alright. So the filling looks pretty good right now. This is what the filling looks like. It's yummy, and now I'm going to add the flavoring ingredients to that. So some cardamom powder. I really like cardamom in my sweet. Unless it's baked stuff, which we'll do a workshop on maybe in October, November, December. You guys can tell us what else you want to learn actually. If you want to learn how to make snacks that are healthy, cookies and biscuits that are healthy, if you want to learn how to make samosas and batata vadas that are healthy, we have recipes for those also, right? So tell us what workshops, because we're going to do one workshop every month for sure. I really love doing this. The team enjoys doing this. So we'll do those for you. Alright, so some saffron and some cardamom. And I'm going to turn off the heat now. Alright, so this is done. Okay. So let me just clear off and create some space here. Because I need space to knead the dough. And what I need is a steamer for the modaks also. We'll keep it ready. Yeah. Okay, so it's not too different from what it looked like 5 minutes ago, but as I knead it, you'll see what happens there. Now, different rice flours need different amounts of water. So when we send you the proportions, and if you see that your rice, as in the dough feels really dry, you could sprinkle a little extra water to kind of make sure it's kneadable. Quite hot. Maybe somebody with superhuman abilities of not getting scalded can knead this better. And I need to sprinkle a little water because this is a little dry. Okay, why don't we wait for a few more minutes for this to cool down, because I just can't eat it when it's this hot. And so you could share in your comments what's your favorite memory. If you've made modaks on your own before, or if you bought modaks before, what's your favorite Ganesh Chaturthi memory? Or you could even talk of your favorite sweets, right? Like which ones do you like the most? Like I know some people who don't really care for Indian sweets too much, but they like the big ones too. Like they like cakes more, and they like pastries and desserts more, or cheesecakes and ice creams more. So you could just share in your comments. That will help us plan our future workshops also better. So maybe we'll just cool this off. We'll just switch on the fan because my gas stove is off anyway. Someone can just hold it under the fan while it cools off. Here we have the coconut filling absolutely ready to be filled. Now what we'll do in the meantime is I have this really nice modak steamer which has a section for water below, which is what gets boiled, and then I have this colander thingy on top which allows the steam to come in. We've put in some turmeric leaves there. We have turmeric growing in our garden and office, so we've put in some turmeric leaves there because that brings a beautiful flavor to the modak. So that turmeric leaf is the base on which we're going to be steaming our modaks. So I'm going to switch the gas on for that so that the steam builds up by the time our modaks are ready to be steamed. Yeah. Good, the fan doesn't seem to be affecting this. Yes, that's good for us. Okay, so I think that must have cooled. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, Namrata is giving me some feedback which I can't read from this distance, so. For Zoom, is it? So Facebook? Sorry, I need to take a minute to see. Admitting all of them and sending experience in chat box. Okay. Is jaggery better than sugar? So, is jaggery better than sugar? No, and we'll send you the article link that talks about it. If you've not registered for the Zoom session, we'll actually post that article link in the comments here as well. And the second question, fresh coconut is coconut with water, or it is dry coconut? So fresh coconut is nariyal, the brown coconut that you see in a store that you have to break either on a stone or with a hammer. I break coconuts with a hammer. People find it very funny. But that coconut, the inside of that is what fresh coconut is. And modaks taste best with fresh coconut. Dried coconuts are just too fatty and oily, and there's just not enough of a mouthfeel. Okay. So I've kneaded this dough. Here it is. This is what the dough looks like. I'm going to bring it closer to the camera so you can see it. And alright, so now what we do is we take small sections of that. I just need some water in a container. Or just give it in this. So traditionally, when we used to make modaks in my family home, my aunts and my mom used to use this mixture of oil and water to make sure that the modak wasn't sticking to their hand. But we absolutely avoid any refined oils. So I'm going to do this without water. I mean without oil, with just water. Okay. So I'm going to make this into equal round size balls. So modak making is a little bit of an art also. I make the modaks look nice and pretty with my hand. But if you're challenged with that, or if you don't have the time to do that, you get these molds in stores, modak molds, where you could just put what I'm going to make next. You could just put that in the mold, and you'll have a perfect looking modak. Okay. So this starts becoming a little meditative for me, so I might forget to speak. If that happens, please comment, and then my team will remind me that I have to speak. If you don't have leaf, what do you put in the steamer? You don't have to put anything in the steamer. You can just keep the modaks directly. We've just put the leaf for flavor. What I can do is, in one section of the steamer, I can move the leaf away and show you what it looks like to just keep a modak plate. Alright, so I have like 5 equal sized balls. Now this is where the art and craft of making a modak comes. What I'm doing is I'm creating a well in this. So I'm going to dip my hands in water a bit so that it's easier to navigate here and get a really nice thin section. Yeah, this is the part where I forget to speak. Okay, I must tell you that behind the scenes, the team is snacking on the Shrikhand I made. We need to keep it for taking some nice pictures. And you need to keep some for me to taste. Alright, so this is what I have. It's a nice bowl-shaped thing, container of rice dough. So we take a spoon, it really depends on the size of your rice dough container or the modak case. But for me, about 2.5 teaspoons of, okay, before that I have to do one thing which I forgot. Give me a minute to do that. This is where the modak pretty making part comes. So we make these sections, okay? And pro tip is, the more you knead your dough, the better this is. It's more easier for you. So I didn't really get too much time to knead the dough, but had the dough being kneaded really well, you would have a far more smoother surface here on the modak. So my mom, when we had to make these in bulk, right, she wouldn't waste so much time doing this with her hand. She would use a mastic and just create these petal-like things. What do you call these? Modak petals? So now that this is ready, fill the filling. So if you are not able to do this, you can just fill the rice container with the filling and then put it in your modak mold and then use that to make the design. Okay, so just bring it together. And then I will use water to smoothen out the surface. So in the patriarchal household I grew up, and that is how most middle class Indian households are. There would be a lot of pressure on us girls to make really beautiful looking modaks, because then the conversation would be key, you know, if your modak is not looking good, how is your mother-in-law going to appreciate you and stuff like that. So those memories are flooding back in. But yeah, important life skills learned: how to make a modak. If I'm ever caught in a famine situation, I'll at least know how to make modaks. Okay, so this one's going in for steaming. Like I said, what I'll do is I'll move the leaf a little bit. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it. This is what it looks like. There's a spot without the leaf, and you can see how the modak will still get steamed. Okay, so this is one there. What's the time? Okay. So we'll finish off with the modaks in the next 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the peda. Okay, so this is kind of ready. I'm telling you, this is like one of the most meditative processes ever, to make modaks and then create really nice designs on them. If you have any questions that are coming up, please put those in the comments. I can answer those while I'm doing this. Also, we are live simultaneously on Facebook, on my own page, on Thrive's page, on the Thrive Tribe group, on YouTube, and on Insta. Can you beat that? Like 5 platforms where we are currently live. So one of the things my mom taught me really well was also how to do repair work, so that the final outcome looks nice and pretty. Such an important skill, no? Alright, so this one's getting bunched up. One of my aunts used to make double-decker modaks, so like this, and then another one on top of that. They would look really beautiful, but the person who they were served to would not eat the rest of their lunch. Okay, so this one's ready as well. This one's going in on the leaf. My team's again telling me something in sign language, which feels like we want to eat the rest, you give it here. Okay. Alright, so they'll, just in the interest of time, because we just have an hour, they'll make the rest of these and then. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to move this, this stuff. Because this will take at least 10-15 minutes to steam. And in the meanwhile, we can get started on the pedhas. Alright? So, alright, so let's move on to the pedhas. Now, pedhas are what are typically used in most traditional festivals as an offering to God, as an offering to the deity. So modaks might just be made for one lunch, but if anybody is visiting your home, which in the era of social distancing, I don't even know how much of that is going to happen. But pedhas is generally what are kept as your bulk snacks. And again, store-bought pedhas, nobody really makes pedhas at home anymore, but store-bought pedhas have a lot of sugar. They often have fillers like corn flour to make it sticky and to bind well, or they are made with dairy. And again, the khoa that's used for making a pedha is contaminated with so many things. My dad was from the dairy industry, and he used to tell me that people use blotting paper and all of that in making condensed milk products. So store-bought pedhas, and we've even heard stories, we've heard of reports where people have had food poisoning cases because of pedhas that they ate, kids have gotten sick. So store-bought pedhas are really a no-no. Even using that khoa, that thing is a no-no, plus the amount of sugar is just terrible. So we actually came up with an alternative recipe for pedhas, which I must say is a complete Thrive invention. You wouldn't even guess the ingredients that go into making this peda. They're all pretty simple ingredients, but you'll see. So we use apple pulp to kind of give some level of moisture to the process of making the peda. We use coconut flour, which is here. You get coconut flour in stores, but it's often very expensive. So we figured out a very easy way of making coconut flour. And what we do is we just grind coconut with some water. Just take out the coconut milk and the leftover pulp that's there. We just dry it in the oven at less than 100 degrees, so 90 degrees or so, for about an hour or two. And that's it. This is what the coconut flour looks like. I made this yesterday at home. Then we also use cashew flour. So cashew flour is going to give your peda that nice, dense, yummy feeling when you bite into it. This is a great. So cashews are a very good alternative to dairy and milk if you're looking at avoiding dairy completely. Because a lot of people use almonds, but almonds are very high in oxalates, which is an anti-nutrient. So if you want to learn more about oxalates, go visit the Thrive website and there's an article on it. But almonds are very high in oxalates, so we prefer using cashews because anyway, these are not everyday recipes. These are recipes that we're using just occasionally. So cashews are better than almonds. We use oat flour. Again, you get oat flour in stores, but if you don't want to spend, like we just needed about this much of it for our today's workshop. So you can just grind oats, gluten-free oats in a mixer and you'll get your oat flour. We are using oat flour in this recipe because oat flour will help bind everything and bring it together so that we can give our peda nice shapes. And we are using a sweetener called as xylitol in this. So in the first recipe we used honey, which is a natural sweetener which has its own antibiotic, antiviral properties, which is really great. In the second recipe, we use dates. We just want to give you options to use as many sweeteners as possible. So dates also is a natural sweetener, and it's really great. It doesn't spike your blood sugar levels like regular sugar would do. This one that we're using is a powder called xylitol. Now, xylitol comes from fruits. It's a sugar alcohol, but in this form, it's not in its real natural form. So this is what we would call as an artificial sweetener. But of all the artificial sweeteners, so my team is making those modaks behind the stage and I can see them laughing. I don't know what's happening to them, but we at least have two pretty modaks for a picture. Okay. So xylitol is what we use in this recipe, and of all the artificial sweeteners, xylitol is what we found is the safest in terms of the impact it could have on your health. For example, this sugar-free Natura ads that you see, right? That is sucralose and it is terrible for your gut, your microbiome. It is shown to be carcinogenic. Again, these details about which sweeteners are better, we'll send it in the articles that we're going to send you. I can smell that turmeric leaf steaming and it's really, really good flavor. So we have a few questions about the previous recipe. Fresh dates should be used or the date syrup can be used. So I don't recommend using date syrup because that's usually made in an industry and there is no fiber left in it, right? So it's like processed refined sugar. So if you have to use dates, best is use fresh dates that you have soaked and you have made into a paste. Don't use date syrup. Second question is steam on slow gas. Not necessarily, yeah, I've just kept the steam low because we're waiting for the remaining modaks to come and we want them to cook at approximately the same time. But you could increase the heat because what we want here is a lot of steam in the upper container because that steam is what is going to cook. Where is xylitol available? If you go to the Thrive website, we have put a link of all the supplements that we recommend and even other food products. So you'll find a link there. Again, when we send you the recipe booklet for things that you need to order online or things that you need to look at specialty stores to get, we'll give you the link in the recipe booklet itself. So we've got you covered, don't worry. Alright? And this, I spoke of apple puree. So this apple puree is what will help bring in moisture into the recipe, because no one wants to eat just dried powders together, right? So instead of using water, we're using apple puree for a couple of reasons. One is apples are naturally sweet, so they will lend a little bit of sweetness to it. Plus, the fiber in apple again helps in putting everything together. So to make this apple puree, we've peeled apples, de-seeded them, removed the central core, and just ground them in the mixer. All right. So let's get started on that. I just need the kadai from there. Shivan, thank you. Can any other flour be used in modak? You mean for the outer covering? Well, you people have tried it with using a mixture of shingada flour, which is water chestnuts. So shingada flour, water chestnut flour, which is what they use for upas also, or fasting. So shingada flour with buckwheat flour, tuka atta. You can mix these two and make, but they won't look as pristine white as this, and it will be a little hard for you to create those modak petals on them. But you could use that as your external filling. Alright, so let's get started. What we're doing for the peda now is I'm heating this kadai. And I'm taking a relatively thick bottomed kadai for this, because there's a tendency for this to get charred quickly. Alright, so in this I'm adding the apple pulp. And like I said, I don't wait too much for my ingredients to heat up one after the other. I'm just going to add all the ingredients here. And then I'm adding the cashew powder. So I'm keeping some aside in case it doesn't thicken quickly enough, then I'll use my cashew powder as a thickener as well. And then I'm adding the coconut flour. You know those Dharwad pedas that you get, the kandi pedas that are nice and brown and caramelly in color? These look like that. So we have the modaks that are being made. I'm going to put them for steaming together. We have enough. Oh, look at this tiny baby one. Have I used a modak mold? Never. I told you, I grew up in a household where my modak making skills were the certification for my future success as a housewife, daughter-in-law, wife, right? So if I couldn't make modaks well, if I couldn't make karanjis well, if I couldn't cook well, then I had failed as a human. So we were never taught how to use modak mold. So I've never used it, and I enjoy the process of making them. So I've never used them, but I know people do use them. Alright, so now that these three ingredients are mixed, that's the apple puree, the cashew flour, and the coconut flour, they are mixed well. I'm adding the xylitol to it. This is xylitol powder. The proportion is the same as sugar. So 1 teaspoon of xylitol is equal to 1 teaspoon of sugar. If you don't want to use xylitol, we use this because we just wanted to give you different sweetener options. If you don't mind darker colored pedas, you could use date paste again. If you want lighter colored ones, you could, what we did for dates, soaking dates and then grinding them. You could use raisins also similarly. You could soak raisins, grind them, and you know the light colored raisins, the golden raisins, and then you'll get a relatively light product at the end of it. As much as I want to, I'm not going to increase the heat here because that thing can get burnt really quickly. And I think for an extra measure, I'm going to add some extra xylitol here because let's have some sweet peanuts. Okay, so these are now mixed. Let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's really mixed well. And before it starts cooking and bubbling, I'm going to add my oat flour to it because this oat flour is what will bind everything and bring it together. And I guess you could use rice flour also, but we use rice flour already once, right? So we want to be fair to all the grains, and that's why we're using oat flour. But make sure you're buying gluten-free oats because the ones contaminated with gluten then can give you other issues like gas and bloating and all the stuff that gluten causes. So that's another thing that we've seen helps people immensely taking out gluten from their diet. But then the obvious question is if there's no wheat, what am I going to eat? Because we are a nation of people bred on parathas and chapatis and fulkas. Okay, I am increasing the heat. So this needs a little attention and stirring. So if you want the easiest out of all the three recipes we've shared now, Shrikhand would be the go-to one. This would be second, and Modaks would be, I think, third in the complication scale. Any other questions that I could answer while this is cooking? Okay, volume up. All right.
Can we use corn flour instead of oat flour?
No, so corn is a grain that you should avoid completely, irrespective of which recipe you're doing, because most of the corn that's available globally, not just India, is all genetically modified. And genetically modified foods really mess with our DNA, and they are not compatible with human DNA at all because these are foods that have been modified to make them drought resistant or pest resistant or really high yield. So when somebody tampers with the genes of natural food, that food in the end is not going to be so great for your body. So corn is one of those. There's again an article on GMO food is there on the website. Please go read it. You'll see a list of other GMO foods also. So corn I wouldn't recommend at all, though it is a really great binder. Oat flour works well because it also gives a nice density to it, you know. We are not just trying to make it stick together, we're trying to bring the pedha together as a whole thing that you can chew into and enjoy the way you enjoy regular pedha. So if you see, it's cooked enough to hold its shape as it's falling off the ladle, right? We'll cook it for a couple of minutes more and then we'll turn off the heat, let it cool down before we make it into a pedha shape. Please give give recap of Shrikhand recipe? For sure, if we have time at the end. Otherwise, you can just come and watch this because it's going to be saved on the Facebook page. You can just watch it from the beginning and the recipe will be right there. But if we have time, I'll quickly do a recap of the Shrikhand recipe. Okay, so this is nice and I'll just show you what it looks like in the pan. So if you remember how it was quite liquidy at the beginning. Liquidy, I don't know if that's a word, but it's not as liquidy anymore. It's cooked and it's looking like it can hold its shape. So we're going to turn off the heat and we're going to keep it under the fan so it cools down quickly. This can cool down on the pan, just hold the plate. The kadai is really hot. And once it cools down, then I'll add the other flavoring ingredients and then just make it into peda shape. So now let's look at our modaks. Yes, they're steaming really well. Let me check if I need some water. Alright, so this will take some time. Any questions that I could answer while the peda mixture is cooling down? I do have good eyesight. I can see names of people on a laptop that's really far away. I see Radhika, I see Pallavi. Hi, you both. So good to have you both here. I see Divya, I see Richa. Hi, Richa. I know Karan sent you the link. And then that's all. But I can see and I can read. So if I went to an eye doctor, I would pass all the tests very easily. Okay, this weight is really, I don't know what else to do. Alright, so let's clear up this space. And I didn't need to add this extra cashew flour because the peda came together on its own. I will need the cardamom, I will need the nutmeg. I will need the saffron. Let's wait for the peda. Let's wait for the modak. So there's a question. Yes, we will add that later. Once it cools down a little bit, we'll add that. And for modak, Sangeeta, what is your question? Easy method to make modak shape? Easiest is, the point where I showed you, you just make the container with the rice, the dough. You fill the coconut in that. You bring it all together. You close it like that. And then you can use a toothpick or a matchstick and just make lines like that, striations like that. So I wish you'd asked me before. I could have shown you. That was my mom's trick when we had to make bulk modaks. But you could just use a small little thing like a fork side or the side of a spoon and just make indentations in that like that. Okay. So the peda has cooled down and I'm just going to knead it a little. We'll just add a pinch of cardamom. We'll add a sprinkling of nutmeg, just for very light flavor, okay? Because too much nutmeg is really overpowering. It can take away all the other smells. And too much nutmeg can constipate you also, so we don't want that happening. And then a little bit of saffron. This. we do is we make nice round shapes. Let me just wet my hands a bit. Nice round shapes. Shape like a peda. Oh, looks like I used the wrong plate. I'm telling you, my backstage crew is like so on this. Sorry. This plate, okay? What can be used instead of xylitol sweetener? You could use raisin paste. You could use honey too, but we don't recommend cooking honey because it loses all its antibacterial, antiviral property. That's why we don't cook with honey. We use honey wherever raw recipes are there. But you could use honey if you're okay with just using it as a sweetener and not minding the fact that it's. So my peda stuff was also getting over backstage. You could use honey if you wanted to. Just make sure you're buying wild organic honey, not pasteurized honey, because pasteurized honey has no benefits. So look for your local store where, or you could even look for them online. You get wild honey online. Is it fine to use silver barak on sweets? Not at all. Silver is not really silver. That silver barak is aluminium that is pounded to make a thin. And you know how they pound that aluminium? The only way they can get that aluminium foil that thin is if they place it in the intestines of animals and then that gets pounded for very very long and that's how the aluminium foil becomes thin. So that silver is not even silver; it's aluminium. Aluminium has been indicated in so many chronic health issues, including Alzheimer's, and aluminium causes zinc deficiency. So avoid using silver barak. You have so many natural ways of making your sweets look pretty and beautiful, which I'll do now. Okay. At home, I would have gone to the sink and washed my hands, but I just have to rely on a napkin, which if I could get now would be good. Thank you. I'm going to use some saffron to decorate these pedas. Could I get that pistachio and almond powder, which we use for the Shrikhand? So the silver foil, that silver barak thing is what sweet shops did. None of our ancestors used silver foil to make their sweets look pretty. I don't think my grandmother ever used it. So there's really no need for it. And the best sweets are the ones that are made at home. Why would you want them to look like store-bought sweets? So here are our pedas. This is what they will look like. And we'll show them to you closer to the screen. Yeah. So the modaks are done. They're beautifully steamed. We're going to remove them as well. So this is what they look like. If you notice, the one that was without the turmeric leaf also has steam. Surprise. But we're going to remove them and put them in the plate. They are really hot. Ancient chopstick method of removing modaks. This is the one that was steamed without a banana leaf, I mean the turmeric leaf. Then we'll keep the baby modak here. Okay. That's like Family Planning Association India's perfect family. No, हम दो हमारे दो होना चाहिए ना. This is like the perfect Indian nuclear family. So you can take a look at these. Alright, those are the modaks and that's the Shrikhand that we'll also bring closer to the screen so that you can drool and then immediately figure out how to make these at home. It's tilting, so yeah. So that's the Shrikhand, so that's it. Our sweet workshop is done. I don't know if we exceeded time. I think we went ahead by 10 minutes. I would love to see more recipes. Where can I find them? Go to www.thrivefnc.com. We'll share the link in the comment section, but that's where we have a lot of recipes online and we update our recipe section every Friday. So make sure you come back and check recipes either every Saturday or Monday because every Friday we publish a whole lot of recipes. These are not just recipes that we have created. These are recipes that have come from the Thrive tribe as well. So we have a couple of people here, Pallavi, Radhika, they are all active members. Who else is there? Snehal is there. Is she there on the show, Snehal? On Insta? Okay, super, Snehal. I'm so happy to see you on Insta. So we have Snehal, we have Radhika, we have Pallavi, some of our amazing contributors towards recipes in the Thrive tribe. So we have their recipes as well on the website. That's what Thrive is all about. It's not just about me and the other nutritionists being there. It's really about the community that's creating this movement of health because see, our vision is to heal 1 million people. And that's not something we can just do in a small team. It's only when the community participates in this vision that we can do this. So there are a lot of recipes on the website. You can go visit them. And then we're going to do these workshops every month because I had a lot of fun. Yeah, and again tell website. So it's www.ThriveFNC.com. One of the team members will write that in the comment section. So just be here. Even after the workshop is over, just stay in the comment section. We'll share the links that we spoke of. But we'll do these workshops every month because I get to tell jokes and I get to tell things from my family history, like how it was a patriarchal setup. So I would love to see you guys again. Before that, most of you saw only me doing this, but the people who are eating all the food behind the scenes, and actually the people who helped set this entire thing up, right, from the flowers to the plants to like just making sure all the ingredients were there. It's the entire team Thrive that did it, so I'd like them to come here as well. Come. So that's the team that was sitting backstage, and so you and Suya should have to come in. Suya should have to come. And there's something that all of us would like to say to you. So from all of us at ThriveFNC, a big thank you for being here. So great, thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon. Yeah, just end it.